Greetings, felt in time and space. It's your host, Shadow, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back once again to some more of the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're going to continue right where we last left off in the last live stream we had of this. I believe we had made our way to the second trial of the game, which is part 1 of episode 2. So we will be tackling this today. So without further ado, let's get started right away with today's adventure and see what's in store for us. Allons-y! Oh, hang on, I'm getting a message here. Hang on a minute. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I just saw the message. Where'd it go? Nah, I'll find it later. 22nd of February, 9:23 a.m., the Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line! Good morning! Good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove you didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning, another murder! Here I am again in this hellhole! Can't keep coming to court! I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruto, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh! Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So here we are again. Yes, again. Judicial Assistant Miss Magatoba Esquires, what's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, did you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say. Oh, I am sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Miss Susato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Barak von Zeeks. Van Zeeks? Ah! Oh no, 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 no! The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. So we meet again! In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly, of course by the skin of our teeth. We managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter. After all, yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper of that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zeeks is the prosecutor. Oh no! And even if that person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. Ah! Do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper! Pair of petrifying perils, potentially! Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Welcome, student Mr. Naruto Esquire. Ah, yes. I'm innocent. You have to believe me. You more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go! Oh yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh, if he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help, and that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zeeks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, local student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Well said. I swear on this sword at my side and on the spirit of Cosmo that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free, with honor. Oh, yes. February 22nd, 9:40 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and the defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my leaden Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zeeks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? You again! Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before. You? I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. Well, whoa! Now that's a design. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of the judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London, chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zeeks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime, namely that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witness to the stand. Oh, the cape's off! The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself. Witnesses, your names and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Ah, Soseki Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume. Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken. That you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gardab household, where the defendant has lodging. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspected something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident. Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell the tale, he very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first met him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well. I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Crime scene photograph has been entered into court record. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes? That's the defendant. Do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious, what's haunted? My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times. Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on that fateful night it happened. When I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out. And somebody tried to kill me. You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. But it's so cold! My ruddy nose would freeze. But the point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. But why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more. Conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Order! Order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation? That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never! The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection? None whatsoever, my lord. Good, then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court now. Yes, my lord. All right, testimony time. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. My tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect substance. How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funny enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see, thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. The catastrophic night. Okay. Let me see something for a second. Present. We do not have the autopsy report, so what I need to do is press on statement 4 because I need to know more about this. Yeah, I need to know more about this. So let me press on this first. How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison is consumed. The victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping, and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms? There seem to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again is always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. You can't deny that, and it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Okay, I'll need to read that. Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great. Let me see here. Let me take a look-see at this. Victim, William Shamspeare, 31. Cause of coma. Ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Investigative conclusions. The poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on the 21st of February. Assessed for the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the man collapsed after the delayed onset of the symptoms. No container for the poison was found at the scene. 1:30? Didn't he? Wasn't there a statement? You left around 11. And the symptoms kicked in at 1:30. That is a heck of a delay. Because that's that's 2 hours. 2 hours and 30 minutes. Hold it! Wait a minute!
Objection!
Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct? Yes! And Inspector Gregson, can we rely on the information in the medical report unconditionally? Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine. Actually, I think there's a very big problem, because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony. A what? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning, and yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Ah! See? Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zeeks? He's got the wine! Man, throw that stuff away! Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? Is it so hard to imagine if the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 1:30. Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot. And in my country, there's an even more apt saying, there is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, counsel? Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. This suggests this may have been a suicide, counsel. Mr. Shamspeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted. But he could be lying! There's something wrong, Lord Van Zeeks. I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Who, sir, are you? William Shamspeare, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim. What? What's he doing here? The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With this testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness? Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy I am, Shakespeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence, in perfect English. That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim. Who's this? Why is this guy here? Alright, so that's Mr. Shakespeare. Who's that other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare. Would the great bard to be recalled to life anew? Lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shakespeare. Oh, the name's Meterman. Adron B. Meterman. I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End branch office. Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road. Oh yes, she's right, it's him. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word? Ah! Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadeb's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case? So, Mr. William Shakespeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct? Oh, heaven! Oh, hell! Do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that crossed me and crossed mine innocent lips. I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me's a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. I already hate him, because there is no less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. They're actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously? Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions. But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shakespeare doing here? The gas man, I mean. What? Me? Well now. Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your early impertinence. You suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question, and moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar. What? No, I didn't quite say that. This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims conclusively. Is that no so, Mr. Meterman? Hang on, no, I'm just here. I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question. One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken. The truth of that wintry night of my discontent. If snow lay about, my neighbour did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But marry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else. I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fellow. Why were you staring into their room in the first place? Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shakespeare's room all night? That's right. Of course, the bloke's window is all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that. The question is, sir, why? Ah! Well now, that's because he's on my list. What a piece of work is a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment? What are you talking about? This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed. Make no more ado about his tedious words. What you say about me? Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more. Indeed, that is so. And, as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime. Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord! I didn't see anything that stood out to me, so let's just press on everything and see what happens. To be clear, by neighbor you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume. Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou wouldst that I call him the man from upstairs? And at what time did the mustache Nipponese visit you in your room? Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo, did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea. Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes. And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before. By which I presume he means the discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shakespeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbor played the fair Juliet, each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment. I dare not imagine the scene. Frailty, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard of the Eastern art of jujitsu, but ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practiced by the comely maiden. Juliet beat Romeo up? This is not helping our case. I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room. My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding. But marry, bid us his drink, and when he left I did fall prostrate on my table. Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. If the defendant had really put the poison into your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain. Gladly. 'Tis an easy task. What? I did drink of the tea, not while my guest didst tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour past midnight, verily were my lips parched. That doesn't sound normal. Nay, 'twas quite ordinary, sir. After all, thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amidst such an argument, there'd be no time for fiery tea. Romeo and Juliet again. And who was stronger? Mr. Shakespeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker? But of course, my liege. 'Twas the stooped lover of words did attempt to shuffle me off this mortal coil. Ugh, we all know what that means. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else. So, you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner? Supper? Ha! Fie on luxury! Fie on gluttony! To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time. Sorry? I would that my belly were full, no more oft than the sun doth rise. Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say. Night and day do I fill my hours with learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence is it that there doth not in my chamber be than the costumes of mine art. That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room. Now that I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. For I have devoured them all. You ate? What? You've eaten them? Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise? Right. That wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea. I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room, but that short little round-backed east... Oh, shit! I mindlessly pressed X. I should have continued clicking. So that's the entire testimony. What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I can't see any obvious holes at all, to be honest. No. Oh, dear. If nobody else visited Mr. Shamspeare's room that night, apart from Mr. Natsume, I imagine the members of the jury will all conclude the same thing. Right, that he's guilty. Well, all we could do is press these witnesses for more information and hope for a breakthrough. Yes!
Hold it!
But the windows of that house have all been filled in. A historical artifact of now defunct window tax. Yeah, you're right there. All bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking in through that gap. Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there? And for some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well. I don't like going around poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights, but them's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing, as long as there's breath in my body. What's with all the theatricals today? Out of interest, Mr. Miedemann, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all? No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time, as far as I'm concerned. And we could therefore discount the possibility of suicide. How could you be sure of that? The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room, and hence didn't dispose of the poisonous container himself, it's clear that this was no attempt at suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle. Ah, yes. Lucidly explained, counsel. Thank you. It really was. You can't argue with the logic. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fellow. You say a short little round-backed Eastern fellow, so you can't be sure it was the defendant then. How many other short little round-backed leaper-bees with a mustache do you think there are in London? Well, of course, there's only a narrow gap, and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up at around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself. And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamspeare drink tea together? Nah, sorry, I couldn't say. Why not? Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? But what I did see was the silhouette of that little round-backed fellow wearing a pretty dress. Then the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match, I tell you. I didn't know what to make of it. I suppose that was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway. Mr. Miedemann, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question. Gasman's honor. My lord! Goodness me. Yes, Mr. Foreman. I've kept my mouth shut and listened up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes! Are we to understand that you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are in agreement with one another? That you've reached an unanimous decision? Too right we have. Are you all with me? Yes. Wait, no! The defense is in the middle of a cross-examination! To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man, especially after you identified those few hours that had followed the accused leaving the victim's room. Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it. But in the end, what difference do they make? None, as far as I can see. And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer. Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 Bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow her top. What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Very well, let the court be apprised of your decision. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty.
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 All of you? Well, it appears that the jury is indeed unanimous. So, this time at least, it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished. Ah! Ah! Get up, Mr. Naruto, please! The trial isn't over yet. What do you mean, Miss Susato? What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? That obscure right that belongs to the defense in these situations? Remember? A summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese, of course. But here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of the majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised at my little Nipponese friends' inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend instead of accepting the truth. Certainly no other defense counsel in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination, because they all know that once a jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered. Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with a summation examination as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law. Thank you, my lord. Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman? Believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity, and we're ready for it. Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused. The jurors' contentions. The victim may not be well off, but he's a noble man and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man. Really? Well, I do declare that the good gentleman has no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid. Just look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stoops all the while, and has a mustache. Very fishy. Really? Being racist, huh? There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least. I really don't care, I just need this trial to end quickly. 3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know. Nothing at all. I knew it. Every single one of them seems completely convinced. It would seem that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shakespeare is a fine, upstanding, and honest citizen. If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements. And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsume has said appears to have registered at all. Well, here goes. Let's not forget. I pleaded with the jury on Soseki-san's behalf before, and it worked, so you never know. Before we begin, it might be an idea for me to remind you exactly how a summation examination works, Mr. Naruto. Oh, well, you're still very new to British law, after all. That's true, I suppose, and Soseki-san's fate is entirely in my hands now, too. There's always a chance I might have forgotten some crucial detail. Perhaps I should hear Susato-san out. I wonder, should I let her talk me through it again, or not bother? Actually, no. I'm good. I know how this works. Thank you for the kind offer, Miss Susato, but I've been through plenty of these summation examinations already now. I think it's important that we don't delay the start any longer than necessary. Of course, I understand, and I'm quite sure you're right. If you're confused by anything at any point, you can turn to me for advice whenever you like. I'll be here for you. The key to this is really listening carefully to each juror's statement, finding two that are contradictory, and pitting the corresponding jurors against each other. Without further ado, please, counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Yes, my lord. Your defense's rebuttal. The victim may not be well off, but he's a noble man and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man. Really, I want to press on you, specifically. Well, there are plenty of people in London who seem noble but poor. Couldn't some of them also be liars? I've no doubt about it. Like that shaky client of yours, for example. Absolutely not. Mr. Nasane is no liar. Look, the point is, the only thing that passed the victim's lips that night was that Japanese man's tea. When you take the gas man's testimony into account as well, the truth couldn't be any clearer. Ah, well, that's alarmingly logical. But let me be frank here. I'm a gentleman with a gentleman's values. If it turns out that the old Shakespearean chum is a rotten liar, after all, I'd gladly change my decision about the defendant. And I'm sure my fellow gentlemen on the jury would do the same. Isn't that right? Well, yes, perhaps. Though I don't see it happening. Eh? What's that? Elderly gent on the end here, you know. You'll have to speak up. Look, I really don't care about all this nonsense. I just need this trial to be over. Well, clearly talking to you, I'm not going to get any answers from. How many gentlemen did we actually have on the jury, then? Alright, sir. I may hold you to that. Don't forget what you said. Now, there was one other statement. A statement that I wanted to press on, and I think it's you. There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman, for now at least. Really? Then why is the gas man, watching him? A fraudsman? What do you mean by that, madam? It really is the most tiresome problem for the company. Most irritating. We can be absolutely certain that a customer is stealing from us, but without hard evidence, we can't even threaten to take action for fear of being sued. I'm sorry, you've lost me a little there. Who are you? I'm the wife of Augustus Altamont, owner of the Altamont Gas Company. Good gracious! Altamont Gas, you say? Gas is the future of energy in this country and around the globe. For proper handling is essential. As I'm sure our employee from the East End branch office would be the first to agree. Absolutely, Lady Quimby! Gotta be used properly! Altamont Gas is the best in the world, of course! Ah, I think we may have solved the mystery of the bow from earlier, Mr. Naruhodo. Right, he bowed in deference to his employer's wife, did he? Ah, so would I be right in assuming that the reason Mr. Meterman was watching what Mr. Shakespeare was up to in his room? I'm afraid that there's no end to the lengths the population of the East End will go in order to steal our gas. So I really have no choice when the company identifies somebody as a possible fraudsman. But to dispatch a worker to watch his suspect day and night, we're very thorough in our investigations. So you mean Mr. Shakespeare is... I wouldn't come out and say it in public. But you could finish that sentence with a grubby little gas thief. You have noticed the public gallery in here, have you? The eye of man hath not heard. The ear of man hath not seen. Faith, wouldst thou wound me with thy words, were I to let them penetrate the skin? For serfs hear not insults, only choirs of angels in song. We may not have evidence yet, but my workers won't stop buzzing around at you until they find it. And when they do, you'll find yourself blasted back to your angelic heights in an Altamont gas explosion. So Mr. Shakespeare has been stealing gas. I wonder, juror number 4, if you wouldn't mind adding that information to your statement. My pleasure. Was it the bit about ripping that thief apart you enjoyed? A little before the part about abject violence, if it's not too much trouble. Yes, of course. This could be it. This could shift the balance. The victim puts on a fine performance, when in reality he's a common thief of my company's gas. Pit you with you! These two statements clearly contradict each other. Good gracious, to whose statements do you refer, counsel? Juror number 1. What are you yelling about, lad? I presume you've heard juror number 4's statement, made by the wife of the owner of Ultimate Gas. Well, yes. The victim, who you claim to be a noble, straight-up man, in fact, turns out to be a common thief. So the good lady says, but there's no evidence, is there? You and I both heard them say as much. It's true, we don't have evidence as such, just yet. But the claims aren't baseless, you know. What? You heard me, seeing as his operation has already been compromised. I would suggest that the court hears testimony from our East End branch office employee over there. I'll do whatever you say, my lady. Gasman's honor. Juror number 1, you say you're a man of your word. If I could show that Mr. Shamspeare was a liar, you assured me that you would reconsider your decision about the defendant's guilt. Yes, I did say that. And as a man of honor, I'll hold to it, as I'm sure the other gentlemen of the jury will. Me? Oh, well, yes. Now that we found out the man's a liar, perhaps we ought to consider the matter further. Well, if I'm perfectly honest, I haven't heard half of what you've all been saying. So if this means you'll recap a few points, that would suit me down to the ground. Oh no, I'm not having any part of this. I want this trial over and done with. In that case, I shall change my leaning. So, Mr. William Shamspeare, if that is your real name, we at the jury demand to know exactly what kind of a man you really are. That's 4 jurors. 4 for not guilty. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo. Victory! Order! Order! Well, this is quite extraordinary, I must say. As a result of the defense's summation examination, the jury's leaning has changed. Now only 2 jurors say guilty, whilst 4 say not guilty. I therefore declare this court to be in a state of disaccord. In order the trial to continue. You have spoilt the bouquet, Mr. Shamspeare. The ladies and gentlemen of the jury now find they are unable to trust you, the victim. But you gods will give us some faults to make us men, so God mend me, I do swear. This gas man speaketh that which concerns him most, naught but gas, naught but thin air. Aye, it burneth bright a while, but it hath no substance, and it doth reek foul. Oi! What did you say? Do I take it, Mr. Shamspeare, that you deny the allegations of gas thievery? Most heartily, my lord. Hast thou forgot? I am as a seraph, an angel, noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart. Ah, you flowery-mouthed pompous beanpole! Just because I haven't got the evidence yet! Mr. Shamspeare, if in fact you are not noble of mind, sweet of nature, or honest of heart, if you are a liar, then your testimony should have no sway in this courtroom. It is my considered opinion that at the present time, no other possible culprit of this crime has been identified. All testimony heard by the court thus far heavily implicates the defendant. In short, it would not be unreasonable at this stage for me to rule on the case. Oh no! However, in light of the fact that the jury has expressed concern about the fidelity of this witness, I believe it would be inappropriate for this court to pursue this point further. I assure you, my lord, that would be a waste of the court's time. The gas and this case are unrelated. Juror number 4! Yes? Didn't you say before that although you had no hard evidence to prove this man has been stealing gas, you have strong grounds for suspecting him? That's right, we do. Don't we, worker? Absolutely, Lady Quimby. Gasman's honor. Very well, then. We will hear your testimony now. You will tell the court precisely why you believe the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare, has been stealing gas. Yes, my lord, it will be my pleasure. On the ultimate gas name, I swear. If I may, my lord. Go ahead, madam. This worker's testimony may have a significant bearing on the good name of my husband's company. Therefore, I should like to take the stand alongside him in a supervisory role, if you wouldn't mind. What is wrong with this guy? No, I'm not reading this. Moving on. Very well. As an exception, I shall honor your request. Thank you, my lord. You wait till the boss gives you an earful. Ooh, it's gonna sting! You mock my words! So, you will both testify before the court on the subject of the illegal consumption of the Ultimate Gas Company's fuel. Yes. Is that clear, my good man? Clear as ultimate gas, my lady. Which is the clearest in the world. Do you think the gas has gone to his head, Miss Usto? I think the man is just a very dedicated employee, Mr. Naruto. I cannot get over this woman's design. It's like, okay, when it comes to character design and whatnot, I always find myself victim to old school Victorian style attire and whatnot, especially when it comes to women. This looks amazing. The color choices, the outfit design, it looks amazing. I like this character design. Nice job, Capcom. I'm proud to be the company's East branch investigator and meter money collection agent. Ultimate gas meters to set thruppity bits. Each coin given customers about 2 hours of gorgeous gas. And yet, the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room didn't have a single coin in it. The meter doesn't appear to have been tampered with, though, and the collection agent has the only key. Somehow, he's using all the flaming gas he wants without paying a penny. If that's not thieving, what is? Pray forgive the discourtesy. The irrelevance of this testimony calls me to turn to my hoard chalice. What do you mean by that remark, Lord Van Zeeks? Did the mustached Japanese poison the gangling excuse for an actor, or didn't he? That is all that should concern this court. And yet now we must listen to this abhorrence. Clearly what separates the vast British Empire and your eastern island nation is more than geographical distance. But this could turn out to be crucial testimony. The cross-examination must go ahead. Ah, my eye! Man, you just threw it into the crowd. Ooh, my foot is itching. I'm sorry. That feels nice. Do what you will. Lord Van Zeeks appears to be in a violent mood. Yes, he does. An attempted poisoning and an incident of gas theft with no supporting evidence. It's true that they would appear completely unrelated at first glance, but I wonder, the truth tends to be buried in the most unusual places, and the first step in uncovering it will be to establish just who and what this man really is. Okay, first things first. The statement that stood out to me the most was definitely statement number 3. They mentioned the meter. We don't have information on the gas meter, so we need that information. Out of interest, how long has this been going on? Weeks and weeks. He's been pitching gas off of us for ages. And you've examined the meter in Mr. Shamspeare's room, I take it. Naturally. We took it off the wall and went over it with a fine-tooth comb. And found nothing suspicious at all, I presume. No, I'm afraid we didn't. Which is exactly why I demanded a new type of meter to be produced. One with an indestructible lock. The Shamspear Special. That sounds like it would have cost an awful lot of 3-penny pieces. And even after all that, the rascal's meter was still empty. I'll never forget the humiliation. When I opened up the money box and found it bare, "You what?" I said. "You what?" And the look on his face, that small smile of his. I pulled the meter straight off the wall and took it back to the office. But you know what? Nothing. Not a trace of it being open anywhere. Not a single sight. And what's happening to my salary as a result? Down by 3 shillings a day, that's what. A life-threatening situation, in a number of ways. Incidentally, what became of that meter? Nothing became of it. I've still got it. Oh. Right here. No wonder they call you Meter Man. I think it would be prudent for the court to sequester this item while the trial is ongoing. Yeah, alright, we'll take a look-see at this. Definitely. Although at first glance, there doesn't appear to be anything unusual about it. Let's move to this along, shall we? Continue with your testimony. Let me take a look-see at it right quick. Oh, there's a hole! Oh, have you spotted something, Mr. Naruto? Just here, there's a little hole. Do you see? Goodness, you're right. I wouldn't have noticed. It's not a very neat hole, is it? Not professionally made, I say. So, you think it might have been opened up by Mr. Shamsphere? Possibly. It seems the people at Ultimate Gas must have missed it. Well, it certainly seems to go all the way through to the inside. Yes, but there's no way a coin could fit through there. That's true, but even so, it seems more than a little suspicious. The details of the gas meter has been checked and added to the court record. That's a very sturdy-looking padlock, isn't it? And the money box is sealed with beeswax, too. So if Mr. Sholmes were to get up to any mischief, he'd be found out immediately. Mr. Naruto, mischief of that kind is not the sort of thing that Mr. Sholmes would... Yeah, no. You know you didn't finish that sentence, don't you? Well, anyway, it's understandable that the gas company would want to safeguard the money that's rightfully theirs, but it does feel a little over the top, perhaps, doesn't it? I'm just checking. Alright, that looks like everything I could check. Shall we continue with your testimony? I would say it has as much value as the contents of that meter. Ooh. The meter? Oh. And the collection agent has the only key. I beg to differ! Lady Ultimate, I'm afraid to say that this meter clearly does show signs of having been tampered with. What? Get away! I've been over and over that thing! I'm telling you, there's nothing wrong with it! In that case, what do you have to say about the small hole that's been made at the base of the coin box? Hole? What? You're right! You're quite right, there is a little hole there. The meters aren't supposed to have that. None of the others do. In other words, we could assume that Mr. Shakespeare secretly opened this hole himself. Yes, I wouldn't be at all surprised. But why? Yeah, why? I mean, it's tiny. You couldn't get a farthing through that. Lady Altamont, I wonder if you could give the court some more details about your meter design. What sort of details? Well, what I specifically like to know is... how does it differentiate between coins? How does a meter tell the difference between different coins? What do you mean? Well, for example, if someone were to put in a 1-penny coin, that wouldn't work presumably, would it? No, of course not. So, well, how does the meter know that the coin it's been fed is a threepenny bit? Ah, I see what you're getting at now. The meter tells coins apart by their shape and size, which includes their thickness. A threepenny bit is about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, you see. Other coins just won't fit. Ah, I see. It's clearly been very well thought out. The witness will amend her formal testimony with that information in case it is pertinent. As you wish, my lord. Oh, wait a minute! The soap! He's using the circular bit in the soap and making molds of the soap. And I'm betting the hole is used to melt the soap to come through the hole. Sneaky. Very sneaky. Yep, it's a mold! It's a mold! Oh, look at this bar of soap. There's a circular depression on this side, about 2 centimeters across, or 3/4 of an inch. Do you think... We did find this soap at the scene, didn't we? Yes, there were 2 bars on that little ledge just outside the window, so we took this one. And I'm sure that when we first found it, there was some sort of reddish medallion in the middle of there. I remember it clearly. Yes, but there's no sign of it now. Where could it have gone?
Objection!
Man, I'm actually pretty good at this. Let me just confirm something here. If the diameter and thickness were to be correct, the meter would accept any object as if it were a threepenny bit. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Well, by something of a coincidence, while we were investigating Mr. Shamspeare's room, we found a particular item that matches the dimensions perfectly. Something the same size as a threepenny bit? What was it? The item in question is this. What? Have you been inhaling gas? That's a bar of soap. It certainly looks nothing like a threepenny bit, I must say. It looks like I'm going to have to point out exactly what I mean here. What's so important about the soap is this part here.
Got it!
You have to turn over the soap to see what I mean. Ah! Are you referring to that round depression in the middle of the soap there? That's right. A depression that's approximately 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Or in other words, almost exactly the same size as a threepenny bit. Get away! Does anyone here have in their possession a threepenny bit? Quickly now! Hand over your coins, ladies and gentlemen! It sounds rather like a highway robbery, doesn't it? Thanks to a kind member of the public in the gallery, I have here a threepenny bit. Now to see if it fits. It fits perfectly. My word, it couldn't be more snug! Yes, as I suspected. This, without a doubt, is a vital clue to explain how the Altamont Gas Company is being defrauded. Well, I don't believe it! So, your assertion amounts to what? That some inferior bar of soap has a tentative connection to the theft of gas? Yes! The depression in the soap was clearly made by a threepenny bit. I must concur, at least, that pushing a coin with some force into a poor quality bar of soap such as this is a remarkably simple way of replicating the coin's shape. And then you could use, well, some melted wax or something to pour into the mold. You can make fake coins in no time! This brings all the pieces of the puzzle together. It's the method Mr. Shamspeare has been using to seal the gas. That's the missing link. And now if I follow the chain of thought, it's going to bring me to a new explanation for what happened that nobody's considered yet. But this is all nonsense. If the man had been making fake coins, my worker would have found them when he emptied the meter. Quite true, Lady Altamont. In the absence of some black magic that could make them disappear. I see. That's what we're dealing with, is it? There's one form of black magic that could cause the fake coins to disappear in the thin air, yes. Exactly. And the meter here gives it away. What on earth? There are remnants of the magical method used visible in the gas meter taken from the victim's room. If that is your assertion, counsel, the defense will identify these remnants for the court at once. Where on the meter can the remnants of the method used to make the fake coins disappear be seen? It's easy. It's the hole.
Got it!
We found this bar of soap at the scene of the crime, just outside the victim's window. Outside? Yes, outside. Where you yourself, Mr. Meterman, were loitering in the freezing winter air. That's where we found this soap. Ah! I get it! That's right. The answer, of course, is ice. Did you say ice? Mr. Shamsphere has been leaving soaps like this outside his window each evening, filled with water. After a night outside in the bitter cold, the water is completely frozen solid the next morning. Then he takes his fake coins of ice and feeds them into the gas meter, giving him light and warmth in spades. As his room becomes very comfortably warm, the ice now inside the meter's coin box melts, turning back into water, and draining harmlessly away through the small hole made in the underside of the meter. That is how, without leaving any evidence of his wrongdoing, this man has been stealing Altamont gas. Just like that. So simply. Is he trying to make us look like idiots? He's been fooling us all with some bars of soap and some water? That's right, madam. I don't believe it. It can't be true. You have any idea how much money we spent to develop that new meter? And now you have the audacity to suggest that a bit of soap and some water can render it totally useless. I'm fairly sure I didn't design it. Evidence! Sorry. I want evidence. If you're going to stand there and tell me our meters are rubbish, I want to see proof. She's very good at enforcing accountability, isn't she? Very well, Lady Altamont. If you'd like evidence, I'll provide it. What? Mr. Naruhodo, are you saying you do actually have evidence to support this theory? I did notice a trace of something that bothered me a little at the time. And I have a feeling that this theory we've come up with could explain it. The piece of evidence that substantiates the theory about how Mr. Shamsphere has been stealing gas is the crime scene photo. Easy. There's a puddle of water in it. This is a photograph of the scene at the point when the victim was discovered, taken by Inspector Gregson. And it clearly shows the remnants of the crime carried out in Mr. Shamsphere. What remnants? Here you can see the gas meter on the wall in Mr. Shamsphere's room. Now, look closely at the floorboards directly underneath the meter. What is that? Some kind of grubby stain? Almost certainly, it's a water stain resulting from the liquid that drained out of the hole made in the meter. Ah! If one coin gives around 2 hours of gas usage, and Yakimet was heating his room in all his waking hours, you can imagine he would have used around 10 of his fake coins each day. The melting ice inside the meter's coin box would have been dripping out almost constantly, leaving a stain on the floor. This is awful. And there's further evidence, too. Mr. Shamsphere is slumped over his table, apparently having consumed strychnine. And right there next to him is a bar of soap, broken in half. You're right. It appeared to me then, counsel, that the man was eating the soap, was he? Pardon me for disagreeing with your lordship, but certainly not. He didn't beat about the bush there, did he? In truth, Mr. Shamsphere was found with a fork in his hand. A meal of soap isn't sounding increasingly likely, Lord Vincent. Do you mean to say he was using that fork to... Yes. To extract a frozen coin from the bar of soap. Ah! But the bar broke in half. So perhaps it didn't go very well. Good gracious! Lord Van Zeeks! I was throwing my hand up in despair, and happened to catch my bottle on the way. Pray forgive my maladroit mistake. What is the meaning of this, counsel? Allow me to pose my learned friend a question. What exactly did you establish with your most recent cross-examination? Well, that Mr. William Shamsphere is a liar and a thief. In other words, that his testimony is unreliable. That's it! That's exactly it! Very well. Let us assume the man is a liar. Now allow me to pose another question. What possible difference does that make? Well, we know that suicide can be discounted. Scotland Yard's investigation revealed no sign of another vessel that contained poison. And on the night in question, there were no visitors to the room except the accused. The young gasman's testimony, which we have no reason to doubt, has confirmed that. Furthermore, the only possible way the poison could have entered the victim's body is via the tea. The court has seen no evidence whatsoever that suggests otherwise. Even if William Shakespeare is the liar you claim him to be, these facts have been objectively established. There's no escaping it. Ah! Therefore, in light of these facts, the prosecution calls for immediate adjudication. You... What?! Order! Order! Well, counsel, how does the defense respond? Mr. Naruhodo! What was the point of that last cross-examination? Did it actually get us anywhere? Or did it make no difference at all, like Lord Van Zeeks is saying? Raise an objection. Easy! No! This isn't over! The defense will not rest! What? But counsel, you successfully explained everything. You've identified and substantiated the unscrupulous method employed by Mr. Shakespeare to consume gas. What more is there to discuss? Lord Van Zeeks just highlighted 3 facts in order to make his point. But contrary to what he would have the court believe, not all of them have been objectively established at all. What are you trying to say, my Newfoundland's friend? At least one of those so-called facts is an assumption made due to a lack of evidence. Good apple juice. But the situation has changed now following the cross-examination of the latest witness to take the stand. Don't be absurd. What is this nonsense? Yes, when you bring everything we've learned so far together and consider as a whole, it's clear. There's a question that we now need to reconsider. Namely, was the poison in the tea? We've all been led to believe that the strychnine poison that afflicted Mr. Shamsphere was in the tea brought to him by Mr. Natsume, but that's conjecture at best. The victim has testified that nothing else passed his lips that night. There is no other possibility. And since there was no trace of the tea left at the scene, it couldn't be tested for traces of poison. As I said, the situation has changed, because in fact, some of Mr. Natsume's tea was left at the scene, and a particular piece of evidence proves it. A ludicrous claim. Scotland Yard detectives investigated the scene exhaustively. What evidence are you suggesting that they missed? The defense has made a bold claim indeed. Very well, counsel. Present your proof. What evidence for the scene of the crime can tell us about the nature of the defendant's tea? Easy. The bar of soap. Because one of those medallions that was made with the bar of soap was made out of tea! Good gracious. The soap again? The same bar the victim used to fashion this coin device? Yes, that's right, my lord. It just came back to me. Something about when we first found this bar of soap at the scene yesterday. It's more bars of soap. Soap? What are bars of soap doing lined up on the ledge outside the window? I'm quite certain that when we originally stumbled upon the bars of soap, there was actually a frozen coin in each bar. So he discovered the gas thief's coin factory. Fascinating. In a way, yes. But there's more. The coins we found in the soap at the time weren't normal ice. There was something strange about them, you mean? Exactly. Something very obviously strange. They were red. The ice was red? No, you mean... That's right. It's obvious to me now. The fake coins in the soap were made from frozen tea! What? Remind the court of a statement made by Mr. Natsume earlier in this trial. That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shakespeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again! Never! Yes. I believe there had been a snowfall that day. It's particularly cold. Sadly, on such occasions, the poorly constructed water mains in the East End are prone to freezing. So on the night in question, Mr. Shakespeare, having no warning of water to use, was forced to use the tea brought by Mr. Natsume in order to make his fake coins. My word! There were 2 bars of soap on the window ledge when my judicial assistant and I investigated the scene. That's right, and we only borrowed one of them. Which means that even as we speak, some of the defendant's tea is still present at the scene of the crime, frozen solid in a bar of soap outside Mr. Shakespeare's window. Extraordinary! Earlier today, Inspector Gregson informed the court that if even one drop of tea remained, Scotland Yard would be able to analyze it for poison. As such, we are now in a position to prove or disprove what has until now been mere conjecture. By finding out for sure whether or not Mr. Natsume's tea actually contains strychnine at all. Ah! You smug Nipponese! My lord, we cannot do the defendant the injustice of passing judgment now. The police should be dispatched to recover the remaining bar of soap from the scene at once, and the defense requests a thorough analysis with the frozen tea embedded in it, to determine whether or not it contains any poison. Bailiff! Bailiff! Instruct the police to attend the scene at once. Yes, my lord. Understood. It would seem we have no choice but to suspend these proceedings for the time being. I trust you have no objections, Lord Van Zeeks. None, my lord. Scotland Yard will recover the tea for the scene and carry out the requisite tests immediately. The trial will resume at the same hour tomorrow. The prosecution and defense may conduct further investigations as appropriate in the interim. Yes, my lord. Well, we managed to scrape through there somehow. Thank you, counsels. Court is adjourned until tomorrow. And with that, that is officially all the time I have for today's live stream. So, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the live stream, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other Always Need our page or click the link in the description below. Don't forget to dream of being me and my kaka, but if you sure to, you won't be disappointed. And of course, click that little bell button if you wish to be notified whenever I upload a video or live stream to my channel. And most importantly, wish to see a Let's Play done, you can do so. Check out my playlist section. All my videos are there, archive, review, viewing, entertainment, so you can watch Let's Plays like God of War, Final Fantasy XIV, Final Fantasy 15, and many, many more. Thank you all for watching. As always, your host, my shadows like Lord Z, and I'll see you in the next adventure. Goodbye, everyone!